questions about this than answers, because it seems to me that exhibiting work in this area is more. The work is actually more about the process. So how do you exhibit a kind of process? I mean, you mentioned was it the Museum for the Temporary Future, which I think is in that kind of area, and I think so. I think Andy's residency, Monica, and the kind of hike that we took people on. I think these are models for exhibiting process, where you engage the audience in the process in some kind of way. So I think is the gallery, is the museum the right context to be showing this kind of work at all? And in media arts practice, we've been asking similar questions. It's like, how do you curate long term? How do you preserve media arts practice? Is it ephemeral work? And some of this work seems to me to be quite similar in the problems. You're talking about technological, the manual that needs to be there to kind of maintain the work. But if the work if it's presented in an experiential context, then maybe you're removing some of those. If the artist is also part of that process. Anyway, so it's more of a ramble.
Just a little remark. Yeah, that is the other side of. I think the proposal could have basically two ideas. One is the idea of the instruction manual, and the other idea is like you do in music. You have to write the music so that other people can interpret the music. In certain way, artists should care now and in the future to develop a kind of notational language and description language and conceptual language for the piece they do, in order that the piece can be interpreted by the one who presented, especially in the case of process art or where art, interactive art pieces or process, where because if you have a process or an interaction, you can never control totally the outcome and what is going to happen. So it's like music in a way. I mean, you can give, what's the English name for partitura? It's the score. I mean, you have to have an art score. I think that's probably also a nice concept that could be adopted by artists.
Please. Julio, just a minute.
Sorry. Okay. Well, I think that's very interesting. Oops, very lot of feedback. Yeah. Because the interpretation of musical scores allows interpretation by if the player was the gallery or the curator in the gallery, if that moved from gallery to gallery, each interpretation would be completely different, not just from the space, but by the thinking of the curator. Yeah.
Yes, another question for Antonio. Well, you mentioned a concept that is very important for me, the idea of post-contemporary art. Well, post-contemporary art is the art of the future. And how can contemporary art museums deal with post-contemporary works of art? Are they prepared to receive them?
Well, I don't think so. Most of them, I would say 9 out of 10 museums are not prepared for post-contemporary art. Every post-contemporary artist know it, every post-contemporary curator know it, and every post-contemporary writer know it. It's a common fact. But it's time to adapt. I mean, that's why I did that exhibition called Metamorphoses. Part of the exhibition is about the metamorphoses of the museum. And I think that time is right for change, because most museums have run out of money. So they spend already all the money in the building, in all the, the 90s festivities, and now they don't have money anymore. So either they sell out the museum to, finance speculators, which actually is happening in Portugal, or they have to develop new strategies. And the new strategy is to understand what is really happening in creativity nowadays, and how creativity can relate to society, to community, and to people. And actually, Post-contemporary artists are what I call the new realists, you know. There is, I actually wrote a recent text for Miguel Palma exhibition in Lisbon. It's going to be published very soon, where I tried to show how art became less realistic during the process of abstraction during the 20th century. I mean, we went into a process of critical analysis of the meaning of art and the purpose of art, and all that became into a process of abstraction and conceptualization of the very definition of art. But that process is over. In the meantime, we lost reality, the contact with reality. So now it's time to go back to the reality, and that's what post-contemporary artists are doing, using very contemporary tools that everybody understands, and using content. I mean, art has to go back to content. I mean, all of the form and process issue is settled. I mean, we understand now what is the function or the reason, raison d'être of the artist in society. And the new artists really play with new tools, and they want to say things. They have things to say, and they understand they have a purpose, and there is a necessity of art in society. Like we need science, like we need technology, communities more and more need art, but post-contemporary art, not contemporary art or modern art. Otherwise, people will go back into religion. That's the alternative.
We are the alternative.
Yes, I have a curious experience to talk about concerning that. I curated in 2001 an exhibition with Miguel Fonaf called The Experience of the Place. It was an exhibition where contemporary artists were invited to do post-contemporary works. And it was in a way, it was interesting, but in a way frustrating. We chose 10 places in the University of Porto related with the practice of science. And we invited an artist to do a sort of a residence in that place. And what happened was that, we asked those places to choose someone, or a scientist, that would work in between and together with the artist. Those places were places like IBMC, like the Museum of History of Medicine, the Faculty of Engineering, the Institute of Forensic Medicine, the Faculty of Humanities. So different places like that, because those different places presented also different ways of dealing with science and of dealing with knowledge, from a very laboratorial point of view, like in IBMC, to the collection of knowledge, or to the storage of knowledge, like what happened in the library of the Faculty of Humanities. And it was very funny, because it was very difficult for the artist to understand the idea of function we wanted they work with. So they did works, very interesting works, but that were no more than site-specific works. They had a very strong difficulty in interpreting that place as a place that produces contents, and they had a very difficult job producing context-specific works, because I wanted that they could incorporate it, not only the specificity of that space in that work, but also the functionality. So also the idea of time that was produced on those contests. I want that an artist working with electron microscopy could be able to produce a work of art that could be seen only with the help of an electron microscope. And it was very difficult. Well, because at least there are two worlds, and it's very difficult to join these two worlds. The methodologies of art and science are quite different, and I think it's very difficult for an artist to to be submitted to the condition of the proof, which is an essential condition when you produce science. I don't know, I think it could be